What's up, guys? Did you know that it's getting chilly outside? And we got hoodies, dude. We've got hoodies. You might want to go check out the link on dudesworld.com and get yourself an official duty hoodie and become a Dudester. Wear it loud, wear it proud. Let everybody know that you're down with the duty.
What's up, George? What's going on in the House of Craze tonight?
In the House of Craze tonight, we have a friend of the show, Mr. Joe D. McFee, will be coming through, talking about his endeavors in the independent comic book publishing industry. We're also going to be talking about writing on somebody else's IP. So we're going to be talking about that a little bit because we're writing on somebody's IP right now, and we're going to discuss that a little bit, plus, you know, all kinds of fun. So coming up next.
Let's get it.
We are the only show for independents all around, giving you a platform to spread your word all over town. Catch the Craze is the place to promote to your fans with the dream of Medina and Sam the Crazy Man. Subscribe to our show and never miss an episode. It's time to get your mans, listen to us on the go. Updated every week, we never miss a day. Join the squad, come on in. It's time to catch the Craze. If you are an independent, catch the Craze. Making moves on your own, catch the Craze. On your grind in the streets, catch the Craze. Join the movement, catch the Craze.
Yeah, George, we did it again. Come on now. Yeah, you want to do it. Catch the Craze. Welcome to Catch the Craze podcast. I'm your host with the most, Sam the Crazy Man Vera, and I am with
George the Dreamer Medina. Still went backwards on us today. Started off with the beat, took off the beat. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another exciting episode of Catch the Craze. I'm in the West Coast, so right now it is 5 p.m. I'm in the West Side.
What time is it?
Where I'm at, 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock in the afternoon.
5 o'clock in the afternoon out here, son. Yeah. So I'm gonna be done here. Get a little dinner. Grab a little dinner with the fam. I fly back tomorrow, bro. It's been a fun week. It's been a fun week here in California. I got a chance to visit, but before we get into that, if you haven't done so yet, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, comment below. If you're in the chat right now, say what's up. We'll pop your chat up on the good old screen here. But thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Yeah, no, man, I've been here for about a week. I came to visit the fam for Thanksgiving. And nice. I was telling you, I went out to Sacramento on Sunday, and I was in Sacramento, and I stopped by a comic book store, and it's called Impound Comics. It's not your regular, comic book shop, your local comic book shop where you sell, you go in there and pick up a Thor comic or a Spider-Man comic. This is a brick and mortar store for the Impound Comics guys. And I don't know if you guys, it's these guys right here. It's Impound Comics. They have their own comic book. It's an independent publishing company. It's an independent, indie that is actually doing their thing, man. They have 4 issues of their flagship Impound, and they created this store just for their own stuff. They sell all of their merch. That's all they do is sell all of their comics. They have a few comics that they sell. Impound is just one of their titles. They have other titles. They sell t-shirts, hats. So if you're in the Sacramento area and you're in what is it called, Delco, downtown Commons, it's by the Kings where the NBA basketball team plays. If you're in that area, stop by, say hello to the guys. Really cool dudes doing it big. They had a Kickstarter they're trying to put together like a movie that they're trying to do for their comics. So they're doing a lot of things, man. So I was there. So big shout out to them. And that was fun. That was a good time. It actually got us talking earlier about you guys had an idea like that back in the days, right? Doing something like that.
Yes, when I was a youngin' with grandiose aspirations. No. Yes. It was in the beginning. What's up, Paul? Into his house.
What up?
It was in the beginning when I first came up with the idea to have Crazy Media Group. Yeah. And it was going to hold all these divisions with Crazy Comics, Crazy Skills Productions, all that stuff. And one of the things we wanted to do was have a storefront and open up a store where all the artists and writers and the producer, because we're doing music too, we had all of our tables in the back of the store, but in the front of the store was the shopping area. So you can see us at work and buy the stuff, and you can interact with us. So that was the whole idea. We wanted like a open window storefront, and people. What's up, Gil? Yeah, that was the idea back in the days when we were young. We were like planning out how to rule the world.
Yeah. It's cool though. It was cool to walk into like somebody's universe, somebody's world. You walk into the store and the whole thing is just them, and it was really nice. It was really nice, man. Nice guys, and hopefully it works out for them. They're doing a lot of things. They have an app. They have a game called Impound. They have a game. I downloaded it actually. It's pretty cool, man. It reminded me of the old school video games we used to play, like the Ninja Turtles, where it was just it just goes side by side. What up, Matt? So so it was good, man. It was good. It was good stuff. It was good stuff. But I go back to New York tomorrow.
I wish them luck. I mean, that's a tough endeavor. I wish them luck.
It's not easy.
Again, no risk, no reward. You only get one shot at in this game. There's no rewind. So when you got it, go for it, and make the best you can from it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, buddy. So that was it. It's been a good week here. I missed, actually. I was supposed to be on the show with JD Calderon on Sunday with you guys, and I wasn't able to make it out there because I had no service. But yeah, brother. So what? So we got a few things going on. Duty obviously is making a comeback in January. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yes, if you haven't signed up, sign up for the Nail in My Toilet book number 4. Gotcha. The link is in the chat. Book number 4. That's right, book 4. We got that far. So we're up to book 4. George is actually lettering it as we speak. So I'm excited about that. And for those of you who come back, who've backed any of the first 3 campaigns, and you coming back and get a physical tier in January 3rd when we launch, you're gonna get this free enamel pin as my way of saying thank you. And this is it's pretty dope. It's a nice size of the iconic. This is what started it all. It was this image that started it all with Duty and his journey onto Earth from Uranus. So I'm excited about that. Thank you for the 28 people who've signed up already. I'm actually flatting the last couple pages, and then once John is done lettering, I'll send it out for the proofs, and hopefully I'll have the proof on time for the launch January 3rd, so you can see what it looks like physically. So I'm excited about that. And not only that, I just uploaded a new episode of my experience at Cowtown Comic Con and Artist Alley. If you go to Art of Samuel, check out my channel. And so there's a lot of stuff. I mean, I think next week I have how I process my online orders. That video comes out. So every Sunday is a new video. And then I do live streams randomly on the channel. But I did one at Dallas Fan Festival. So check out the Art of Samuel. The link is also on Catch the Craze, the summary. And if you haven't done so, subscribe to the channel. I think since I relaunched that channel, I think 2 weeks ago, we added 27 new subscribers to the channel. So thank you so much for everybody who joined. So that's pretty dope.
Yeah, definitely, man. Definitely. Yeah. Subscribe. Make sure you check the channel some love.
That's what it looks like.
There it goes. We are nearing episode 500 here on Catch the Craze. That is going to be happening. We're at 484 right now. So we're getting close to episode 500. So we're going to, next year, we're going to start, not giving away, but, selling some swag based on the channel. We're going to have hoodies. We're going to have pillows. We're going to have canvas bags.
So if you ever feel lonely at night and you just need, you see somebody to hug, go crazy with a Crazy Sam pillow, and you can snug as much as you want.
Jesus. Yes, you can snuggle along with Go Crazy there. But yeah, that's gonna be available soon, coming next year. 2023 is gonna be a big year, man. We're gonna have a lot of things, so that's happening. And then also episode 500, when it goes live, obviously we're gonna be giving away some of this swag, so somebody will be able to win some of that stuff. So tell your friends, make sure you do subscribe to the channel. We're at 650 right now, hoping to get closer and closer to 1,000. The other thing to do too is, can those pillows be used for punching?
Woo! That's it.
Yo, go for it, bro.
Go for it.
Yo, kicks, punches, whatever you want, bro. Knees.
Yeah, the dreamer pillow. The dream big pillow,
bro.
That's the one.
Elbows.
The dreamer pillow. That's the one you want to put your feet on.
Yeah. Do what you gotta do. Let some stress out, bro. Let some stress out. put them up, throw some darts on it, whatever you want. So it's
Old
yours.
jam on there.
It's yours. Yeah, whatever. But yeah, no, definitely check that out. And then also, if you guys get a chance, go to Get Your Meds with a Z, getyourmeds.com. Pick up some comics. You know, The Adventures of Wonderduck is on there. Russ 5377 is up there. Yes. T-shirts, hoodies like this one right here. Believe Nothing hoodies. Let's get those going. Sam, also, I think you have hoodies for duty. There's an air in my toilet.
Yeah, we started the show with the hoodies. Hoodies are doing pretty well. So you know the hoodie is that time of year to keep nice and warm and toasty.
Sweater weather up there.
Hoodie.
Yeah, it's actually chilly here too, bro. Be surprised. I thought it was gonna be a lot warmer here in Cali, but the nights get cold.
No, you know what's funny is that today was an anomaly. It was like in the 70s. It was so hot. I was like, wait, what's going on? It was rainstorms and cold frost the past few days, and then today, I don't know where the sun came from. I don't know who turned on the oven, but I was like, I wasn't prepared for it. Like, you know, I usually go out with my sweater. I'm like, oh, it's hot out here. I was in the garage working. I don't know, I was sweating. Normally, I have like layers on, and I can't even break a sweat because it was so cold. I'm like, oh, look at this.
It's the weather. The weather's all over the place, but it is hoodie weather. It is sweater
weather.
So make sure you pick yours up. Go to the website and grab yourself some stuff, man. But okay, so we got that out of the way.
Word.
What else we got going on, Sam?
What else we got going on? We got some we got a great topic. We got a great topic before on tonight that we're going to be talking about on the Get Your Meds segment. But I think we should go and get our meds right now.
Let's do it. Why not? Let's do it.
It's time for your medicine.
Writing someone else's IP.
That was the reason for a little parenthesis at the bottom.
Yeah, I know. That's just a poking fun at myself because I read things as I see it. I'm like, that's it. I didn't see I.P. I said I see IP.
Intellectual properties. Yeah. For the longest, obviously, Sam and I, we've been writing our own stuff, right? Our own comics, our own create our own things. Sam obviously has Forbidden, and you have the kids' books, and you have obviously There's an Alien in My Toilet. I was writing Russ. I've been writing, There's an Alien in My Toilet. See what I did there? The Adventures of Wonderduck. The Adventures of Wonderduck.
He has that for everybody.
Yeah, and a bunch of other things that I'm in the process of creating. But the opportunity came up to write 10 pages for somebody else with somebody else's characters and their intellectual property. And so we decided, hey, man, I think this would be a good idea. Let's do it. So big shout out to Paul Hayden from ASAP Imagination. You guys definitely want to follow him on Instagram. Check him out. He's an independent publisher out in the UK.
Yes.
And a few years ago, maybe last year or maybe a couple of years ago, he printed out a book called Perspectives. And he actually, everything he made on that book, all the sales of that book went to a charity. And the charity, let me see if I can find it for you guys here, was for the Dyspraxia Foundation. His son has that. And so he decided to give back. And so he created this book. And all the sales went to that. So this year he decided, it'd be a cool idea if I did it again. And he decided to hook up with an organization called freeartsnyc.org, which basically gives money to kids, who are in the inner city and provide money for the arts in their communities. Mm-hmm. So all the proceeds from this next book that he's putting together will go there. The next book that he's putting together is a book called Animatronics. Animatronics is an anthology, okay? In the form, the reason why it's an anthology is because it's going to be written by 9 different artists, writers, and it's going to be drawn by 10 different artists. And so it's one story, but each one of us gets to write 10 pages. And I wrote my 10 pages just last week. Sam is on deck now, so he just finished his 10 pages. But we decided, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the experience. And obviously, Sam's going to be on with Paul this weekend because he's got to pull out the next name out of the hat so that the next writer can come in and write the next 10 pages. But we figured, you know what, let's talk a little bit about animatronics and our experience writing somebody else's intellectual property. How did you feel, Sam? How was that experience for you?
I think, first of all, what's unique about this project is that it was just like the spinner, right? Names are thrown in there. You don't know what order you're going to be in. You don't know when you're going to be up to write your 10 pages. And so I think that's what makes it fun and interesting, because you, like, for instance, I had 6 people before me. So I spent 4 hours reading through the 6 I call them chapters. Each 10 pages for me was like a chapter. So I went, 4 hours reading through it and then highlighting key things that I need to remember. And then, and before I started sitting down and brainstorming what I'm going to do next. So I thought it was a really interesting, I've never been in part of something like this before. Very interesting. It definitely challenges you creatively, because you have to be able to tell a cohesive story within 10 pages, follow a rhythm that's already been set, right? And not only that, but also try to complement the previous writers by maybe closing up some holes, answering some questions. So you want to be able to not make it more complicated, but try to make it seem like each page, each writer just continued to respect the story, and it just got, and it complemented where it was going. No, so I thought it was very fascinating. It definitely worked a set of muscles that I haven't used. It forced me to think outside the box, and also within that 10 pages, because what I found happening is I wanted to finish the damn thing. Like it's like I wanted to keep writing, because this, I think the characters and the concept that Paul has come up with is really fascinating. I think people are going to enjoy it. And it has so much potential. And so I think I had fun with it, but it's very interesting because it's not yours. So then you have to respect the identity of the characters and all the other stuff and that whole thing. So you couldn't just go run amok. So I think it was very interesting. So you had to work within almost like 4 walls, right?
Yeah. I was on with Paul last week, and we were talking about, like, he goes on and you guys go on, and you'll be live with him on Instagram, and we just talked about how I felt about the whole process, and it was cool, man. It was like playing. It was like going to your friend's house when you were kids, grabbing their toys and just playing with their action figures and creating stories as you went along. And every time something you pulled something out of a box, you just started playing with that particular character, and that's exactly what it was. And it was a really, really good time. And animatronics, it's almost an ode to like the 80s and 90s cartoon, more so the 80s cartoons that we grew up watching, and it's the G.I. Joes, it's the
Inhumanoids,
GoBots, Transformers, like those things. And so yeah, very much so. So it was fun to kind of, write in that vein. What was also fun for me, you speak about the guys that come the guys and girls that come before you, is that everybody's got their own style of writing, right?
Yes.
So you're reading through very different. So you're reading through their writing, and you're like, oh snap. Some people are very, technological when it comes to their writing, and they had a lot of technological terms, and some people had big, panel descriptions where everything was detailed in the panel. You know what I mean?
I was like, I'm glad I'm not the artist on that one.
Yeah. Oh man, dude, the artist, holy cow, man. I said this, you guys are either gonna have a lot of fun or a lot of
hate it. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. You're gonna love it or hate it when you get whoever. Because the other thing is, once all the writers are pulled out of the hat, artists get pulled out of the hat and matched up to those 10 pages. So it's an interesting experiment.
So I think it's going to be a lot more challenging for the artists, because a lot of artists have specific go-tos and things that they avoid, right? This is going to force you to do a lot of things that maybe some might not anticipate it, right? Mm-hmm. So like there's some big elaborate scenes and a lot of images and back stuff. So I think it's really going to force. It's a great exercise to help further your craft, I think that's what this whole thing is. If that's why I looked at it. I think the first thing I did was I had a dry eraser board, and I was like, all right, these are all the characters that were introduced per chapter. This is where they're going. I have questions here. I have questions here. Let me see if I can answer the question when I write here. And let me see if I can answer that question, because if I was looking at it as a reader first, and then I was like, all right, now how can I streamline it, and then how can I add my own twist to this and make it even more interesting? So I think from that point of view, I felt that when I looked at some of the pages, like, oh man, if I had to draw that, woo, I don't know how long it's going to take me. You know what I mean? I was like, so like, I'm really, I think it's going to be interesting to see who the artists end up doing and what artists get what chapter. Because some writers are, like you said, they went to town. They went to town, and I was like, holy crap, look at that.
Yeah. Hey, you'll be happy to know a lot of my stuff takes place in very dark areas, very like in the woods. So you're not going to have too much trouble with perspective and all that other stuff. Hopefully it should be fine. I wasn't trying to screw anybody over, but I do have to say, like, so writing for somebody else is different than writing for yourself, right? Because obviously, you're, and I don't want to say you're bound by what you can actually do, not in a bad way. It's just what it is, right? Yeah, you are, because there's a voice for each of these characters. And the thing is, you read the whole thing. So as you're reading the pages, every character now has I guess a personality that you got to kind of like keep moving along through the script as you go along, so that it doesn't look like it's a different character. Somebody else wrote it. So you have to keep that in mind when you're writing this thing. So there are different things that when you're writing your own stuff, you don't have to worry about that stuff. The other thing that I did appreciate about this particular project was that we have an editor on the job. And big shout out to her, man. Lori Cunningham. She's been doing her thing. She's been editing everybody's work. It's going to be interesting when she comes up and writes, because then I guess I'm assuming Paul's going to have to edit her stuff.
Right.
But she's been in charge of reading the entire story, making sure that it sounds the same, that it is cohesive. So she'll send you notes like, this, do this, or maybe we try this, or what, she'll give you just some constructive, just criticism to make it sound great. And that's something that when you work on your own, sometimes you don't have, and you should. I think you should have an editor, but a lot of times we don't. As independent artists, we are our own editors, which, yes, granted, is probably not the best way to do it. It isn't the best way to do it. You probably should have somebody else read it and come in and pick it apart, because you don't see what you don't know. Like you're just writing, so you think everything makes sense. Right. It isn't until somebody else reads it that you realize, oh yeah, I didn't put that in there. Duh, I should throw it in. So that part of it was also different, and it was fun. It was fun to do that too.
Yeah, it was a great exercise. I think I think everyone should try something like this once in a while, especially blindly, because that's basically what it was. Is like, you don't know when your number's up, and then you have to try to you almost like play catch up, right? And then so I think the best thing I did was isolate. I compiled everything to one book, but then I isolated the chapters, and then I highlighted, and I used I printed out his villains and heroes list. And then I highlighted who was introduced on what chapter and whatever. And then I circled their profiles. And then I was connecting the dots. And then once that was done, then I was like, all right, where do I go from here? Okay, this person alluded to this, but it didn't really answer this question. So maybe I should answer that question. And that's how I was piecing it together. Then I said, all right, there's got to be some sort of twist as to, we were talking about it offline. I was like, there's a situation where there is no law enforcement. There's nothing around that's happening. Only in the news. Why not? There had to be something even bigger behind us. So, so I was like, all right, so how can I make it even more interesting, for, then, the next writer is probably going to, have fun, or be like, damn it, But I think that's the fun part. I think, for me, it was like you were talking about where you would go with the story, and then I had like my own impression of where I would go with the story. So that's what makes it even more interesting.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think that because we're at the tail end of the book, there's nine writers. So you were 6, right? So we have to start closing up some of those things. I'm stealing all these strategies now. You have to kind of like start closing some of those plot holes, so to speak,
Yes.
because they're not necessarily plot holes yet. They are plot holes if we don't close them. So as you're writing towards the tail end of it, you have to start kind of like putting these things in place. I kind of read the stuff as it was being put up, so I didn't have one big thing to read. I knew what the story was, because every time Paul posted, "Oh, the pages are up," I'd be like, "Oh, snap," and I go in there and read the pages.
Yeah, not me. I
love that. Yeah, I loved it.
Up.
I loved it, man. I loved it because I like to plan. Like I don't like to come in at the very end and just do one big read. It would be too much for me, especially because I don't have the time to read everything all at once. I still did it, and I still had to print everything out. Like I had one file of all of the pages, so I read it in one big thing. But it was just a refresher at that point because I had read the stuff before. So and again, that's the beauty of this project, is that everybody works differently, right?
Yeah. I did it the same way I did it in college. In college, where everybody's cramming and cramming and cramming, the day of the exam, whatever it was, a couple of hours before the exam, I'm in the staircase and I'm speed reading, going through keywords in my mind.
That's cramming. What you
just
described.
But I did it, and people do it like
you were cramming.
I did it. I do it right before because it stays in my mind. I have to have it all together. If whatever I'm doing, I have to have it all there because I work that way. I have to see it. I don't like getting it in pieces, so that's why I waited. I said, "Nah, I'll wait till I get it, and then I'll spend an entire day on trying to process it."
It was like waiting for pages to come out was like waiting for the next comic book to come out every month. Like that's how it was for me. Like 10 pages are up, cool. I'm gonna read them because they come out every 2 weeks. So it was like waiting for the next comic book to come out for me to read the next 10 pages. That's the way I looked at it. And then when it was my turn to go, it was like reading the graphic novel. It was like reading the straight paperback of all of the comics that I picked up throughout the thing. So now I'm reading it. So I read it twice, basically. I read it as they were coming out, and then I read it again. And that helped me kind of create my 10 pages, because every time somebody wrote something, I'd be like, oh, I would go here. Let me see if I get picked next week. It wasn't me. All right, I guess I'll have to wait till the next week. And then it was the next week came. And then, all right, this is how I would write that. And it wasn't me. So when I finally got it, I already knew where I wanted to go with it because I had read all that stuff. Yeah, it's been beautiful watching it grow. And so Paul now is going to have the I guess the job of finishing it. Yeah. So he's going to write the last 10 pages.
I was hoping to go before him.
You're hoping to go before him? Yeah. Yeah, man. So he's gonna have to go and finish it up. So everything that's been kind of like been put down, he's gonna have to put it all together and finish it up. So it's gonna be interesting to see where it ends. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah. I think the readers are going to be the benefactors, the beneficiaries of all this, because I think just by reading it, I enjoyed it. It's something that I would have on my bookshelf. I think everybody really wanted to make certain that they put the best foot forward, and I enjoyed reading every step of it. And kudos to Paul for providing a summary and the character bios, separately, because that's what helped me with my process, because it was all there, and all I had to do was cross-reference everything.
Yeah. Because there's so many, chefs in the kitchen at that point, right? Everybody's doing something with that recipe. So it's, I mean, as the longer we go along, and obviously, what we have 3 more people to write. So
there's Paul, Lori,
and one more, and I can't remember the name of them. But yeah, so it's 3 left. So now they have to kind of put the pieces together and close it, put a nice little bow on it and close it out.
Word.
That's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. So yes. I can't wait. That should be out. Hopefully it will be out sometime next year. By the time all the art gets put, obviously the writing is being done now, and then
The
Art. You know what? So I have I don't know if Paul's still on there. Paul, how long do the artists have to draw their pages now? You know what I mean? Yeah, done is right. Are you giving them a time frame? Like we had 2 weeks to write, but I think they might need more. Yeah, and 48 hours to draw 10 pages. Go. So that's gonna be a challenge, man. I'm telling you, these artists. Dude.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
Yes,
So that was this episode of Get Your Meds. If you liked
Yes.
this episode, give us a thumbs up if you haven't done so already. If you listen to Catch the Craze for the first time, please subscribe. When we grow, the indie community grows, and we like to put shine the light on our guests. And speaking of guests, we have one in the waiting room right now. His name is Joe D. McFee, and he is chomping at the bits to get him on here and talk about his endeavor and all things creative. So let's bring on our guest. Welcome, Joe.
Yo, what's going on?
What up, brother? How you doing?
I was enjoying the conversation. I was enjoying that. I was like, that was some good meds. Some very good meds.
Yeah, man. How you been?
Oh, I'm just hanging in there, still trying to get things done. It's not good to always be a one-man army.
I hear you. So Joe, for those who don't know, introduce yourself to the audience and let us know. Are you a writer, artist, or both?
I'm kind of a little bit of everything, but let me go ahead and explain it this way. I am Joe D. McFee. I'm the president of Exigency Studios. I am the creator, writer, and artist to Amazonia and Primetime Saturday Night, and I'm also about to get ready to take over the art duties for AWF as well. I've been in the independent comic publishing business for over a decade now. I have worked on a lot of different pro amateur projects, and over this past year I worked on my very first licensed project. So that's the reason why I found this session of Get Your Meds so interesting, because my experience was a little bit different because I actually wrote outside my normal genre for the first time.
See, that's the other thing, writing outside your genre. So how did you handle it? What were some of the challenges?
Pretty much I have to get into the mindset of the licensed IP, and it's safe for me to do it because I'm no longer up under an NDA because the book has been already released. I did a 8-page story for the known franchise of The Sword and the Sorcerer. If you know Ozzy Longoria, he has the current license for The Sword and the Sorcerer, and I did an 8-page story for him, and I got to actually introduce 2 new characters to the lore.
Wow.
Sword and the Sorcerer. So that was unique within itself, and having the movie to go off of and looking at what you could do and having some freedom, because I wasn't like pinned up into a box per se to look at, oh, you can only use these characters. He gave me the instruction of creating a brand new female character and kind of highlighting and bringing her into this mythos. So I pretty much did that, looking at the movie and kind of glancing. It's like, what would be an interesting female character in this particular fantasy setting? And pretty much I came up with a /pirate/ dock worker who would happen to be in this one town and happen to bump into the main character, and one thing led to another, and now they're a part of this pirate crew.
Wow, that's awesome, man.
Nice.
So they gave you the green light to do this. They were like, go ahead and create. Were there any stipulations? Like, were there any things that you couldn't do with this character because it was going to be part of a mythos that's already existing?
That was pretty much left up to my imagination, but I got everything approved before I went ahead and gave the final, draft over to him. So I had to literally pitch what I was thinking first, and then I wrote it out for them to use in the actual comic book anthology. Yeah.
How tough was it to write 8 pages, man? Because we had 10 pages to write, and 10 pages went like this. Like, how
it's easy. No, it's easy. It's like when you first start, it's like, man, 8 pages is a lot. But once you get typing and you think about all your scenes and everything, it's like, wait a second, I'm about to go to 12 pages. I need to reel it back in. Right, let's bring it back some. Let's bring it back some. It's like, okay, I need to cut this out. Got to keep it concise. Got to keep everything moving, keep everything flowing, keep pushing the envelope, but yet you can't go too expository.
Right. Do you think that you'll do that again? Will you write for somebody else again?
I would love to continue working on that particular IP for those characters that I created, because of the simple fact that I see how talent could fit in to that in his building up his character, as far as all of the knowledge and skill that he eventually gained before he faced the the sorcerer that he did in the movie. So I wrote this story as if this was young talent after he saw seen his parents and stuff get killed. He leaves the country, and as he's fleeing away from the person who took over his kingdom, this is one of the adventures that he went on, and he's going to gain experience and everything to that magnitude, become the awesome fighter that he is.
It's funny, man, because like as a writer, right? Like, for example, you create these characters, they become part of you, man. Like the way you speak about them, even now, is like, yo, man, I would love to do another story about that. How would you feel reading somebody else writing that character? Maybe you were like, man, that's not what I was thinking for it. Do you think that it would hit you like in a way where it'd be like, damn, why did they do this to my character at this point?
Well, maybe because I'm the type of writer, it's like, oh, they went that way with it. I go like, interesting.
Right.
And I do the Fu Manchu, be like, that pie man, like, and then I could come back. I could always come back later and use what they did and do what I need to do to really make the character shine. Because any little addition can, add to the spice that can make or break a character.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely. And so you've been doing this, you said, for over a decade. Some of the stuff that you've been working on, Amazonia is one of those books that you actually had a Kickstarter not too long ago. Finish up, and you were very successful with that Kickstarter. So tell us a little bit about Amazonia. Like, where'd that come from? Where did the idea for that come from?
Amazonia is, see, this is the thing. Amazonia is actually a spin-off book. I started with my spin-off book, then the actual main book, because I still feel that I don't have a true audience for the main book, which is Last Line of Defense. And that's because of the main character. The main character is going to push people's buttons so much that I don't know if people are ready for it. So instead of doing that one, I used the secondary character in that series, which was Elisa Masters, which is codename E, and came out with Amazonia, the Continuing Adventures of E, where she finally leaves Last Line of Defense to start life over again in her hometown. Now, mind you, the reason why she left in the first place in high school is because she got accused of murder at her high school prom, when it was really self-defense. And because she had superpowers, it wasn't looking good for her. So eventually there was a deal that was made for her to go into this government program. She had to leave immediately. And it turns out that, she was deemed innocent after everything was, done and over with. But she wants reconciliation, for that aspect of with the city and everything, because she feels that, she was treated like a monster, and she still feels like an outcast. But yet at the same time, she wants to go home and try to live a normal life back in her hometown.
So you're saying this is a spin-off book. So normally, your spin-off book, you might get the origin story in a spin-off book that you maybe didn't get in the main book. Is that how you're treating this? Are you treating the spin-off so you can get her origin story versus what you would see in the Line of Defense?
Yes. Okay. Her origin is not going to be talked about in Last Line of Defense at all. Okay. It's all going to happen in the Amazonia book, especially dealing with her family heritage on her mother's side.
Interesting, man. Interesting. Where did the character, the idea for the character come from? Was it based on somebody you knew, or how do you come up?
No, it's inspiration being taken from a myriad of ideas from reading things like Wonder Woman, Glory from Image, and a couple other things here. And I'm looking at specifically like Amazon's Attack. If you remember that 5-issue series from DC, where DC opened up the door to saying like, well, there's Amazons from all different cultures. And then I also look at what the Just Imagine series that Stan Lee did, and those short stories that he did. And he did one with Wonder Woman, where Wonder Woman actually expanded from more of an Aztec culture than Greek.
Interesting. Okay.
Where I'm going with Elisa is that I'm going to use Incan.
I got you.
And it's surprising because, you know, being that she's, you know, mixed between African American and, you know, Latin American, more like South America.
Yeah.
People would think I would go African. I was like, no, I'm thinking Incan because I find a lot of stuff about Inti and a lot of the history over there about their gods more interesting and humble. Yeah. Because it's like when you really read about, you know, that lore and that history, it seems like their gods were more like you and I.
Yeah.
However, the circumstances that they went through made them that much more.
Yeah. And there's little known. Yeah, and there's little known about the Incan, Indians versus the Aztecs. You know, everybody, the Aztecs and the Mayans. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And even to a certain extent, the ones the Indians from Puerto Rico that were out there. What part of South America are you exploring in that book?
In between, you know, pretty much like the Amazon jungle basin area, not Brazil itself, but on the outskirts, right on like the edge of the actual Incan Empire. I'm going to have like a little B section. I already have it like mapped out on the actual South American map based upon, you know, the old Incan maps as far as how their empire was laid out. It's going to be like a very small little pocket where the city that her mother and those legendary Amazons that she's going to be a part of is going to reside in. But that's getting into the second story arc of Amazonia. I almost finished with the first story arc, which goes 15 issues. So we're already on issue number 8. So we're like at the halfway point.
That's cool, man. So that sounds like Peru, Ecuador, like along those lines over there. That's awesome.
Peru, Ecuador, awesome. And you know, like right there before you get into like the other half of that jungle before you get into Brazil.
Yeah.
So you got like that big old jungle area that divides those two areas in half.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome.
I think that's what's fascinating about just writing and the creative world is because this world in itself is so rich and so much history that you can take something and just play and bring attention, even if that wasn't your intention, but bring attention to an area or to a culture or to a group of people that no one even gave a second thought to. And I think that's what's fascinating. There's so much sand on the beach to be able to play with and build your own castle.
Yeah. And it's not going to sound forced, Joe, because you're creating it. You know what I mean? It's not like you're changing somebody's, you know, culture to fit, you know, something that you're doing. You're creating it. So you could just do it now. You know what I mean?
And that was the cool thing, because the more I read about the Incan heritage and their gods and everything, and the key gods that I wanted to use, it made it that much more interesting for me to write it, because it falls into what I really wanted to do with Elisa in the long run, as far as her discovering her ancestry. Yeah. In a way, she's eventually going to become like a reverse Wonder Woman. And I had to always explain that, because everybody think about what is reverse Wonder Woman. If you ever follow Wonder Woman lore, she was chosen to be the hero of the world. You know, she was like the best Amazon to go out to the world of men and to save and bring peace to the rest of the world. Yeah. Elisa, on the other hand, she's going to eventually learn that she's going to bring their people back to balance and save them from the rest of the world.
Right. Is this is this story almost like a prequel to the original story, or is it going to take place in a completely different kind of? It's not.
No, this is several years after the main events of the main book, Last Line of Defense.
And so have you written? So that book is written. It has been drawn. It's just never been released, or where are you?
No, it's partially written. I have never went ahead to go ahead and put it in production.
Okay.
And to give you an idea what Last Line of Defense is, it's pretty much the story of Jonathan Mason. That's the name. That's why I named the character.
Mm-hmm.
He is, a person who was, being foreign Air Force, a former Air Force soldier who was a part of this, pilot program and everything. And he was testing this one aircraft. He almost met his end. But just before he died, the Almighty pulled him away. And in doing so, he was away from society, learning about how to be the perfect man and learning the things of angels and everything to that magnitude, and eventually became like how in most scriptural texts was saying, mocking the perfect man. It's like it was only one other person that God actually saw that was pleasing to him, and he removed him from the earth. So with Jonathan Mason, he pulled him from the earth. He learns everything and whatnot, but the higher power sent them back. But when he sent them back, he gave him a part of his will. So now, it's pretty much he's kind of like one in tune with the Almighty.
Interesting.
By doing so, he lost his humanity. He had to relearn how to become human again.
Yeah.
And doing so, he also had to lead a military force while trying to regain his humanity.
Huh. Interesting, man. So do you think that when do you think we will be ready for something like this?
I just look at the trends and everything when it comes to what people are reading as of right now and everything to that magnitude. Because as of right now, people are reading a lot of horror. People are reading, a lot of fantasy. This really doesn't fit into any of that. I mean, to me, this is more kind of like a thriller type something else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking to myself, it's like, if people really get to love Amazonia and what I'm doing with Amazonia, especially when I get to that third story arc, right about that time, I could go back and say, if you love this is the story that brings it all together.
Right. And,
because Jonathan Mason is going to eventually show up in Amazonia soon.
Gotcha. So it sounds like, and we talk about this sometimes, Sam, on the show, where artists and creators have to put on their business hats and think like a businessman, as a businesswoman also, as well as a creator. And it sounds like you're kind of doing that a little bit, right? You're kind of seeing where the market is, and then dropping them with that. Now, do you think that in waiting for the right moment, are you ever afraid that you might miss the right moment if you wait too long for it? How do you tackle that mindset?
No, to me, it's like you come out with it when you come out with it. It's never going to be a right moment. It's like, even if you pull the trigger early,
right,
it's still out there. You still have to market it.
Mm-hmm.
It may not catch on right away. And that was the hardest thing that I had to learn with Amazonia, because I almost gave up on Amazonia at issue number 3.
Really? Why?
Well, because at first people wasn't looking at it per se, because again, when people look at comics, what's the first thing that they always comment on?
Mm-hmm.
They comment on the artwork.
Right.
They comment on, hey, that cover looks okay, but I don't know. The artwork isn't, it's there, but it's not what I prefer.
Right.
Because of that, they won't delve into the actual story to read it, to see what it's truly about.
Mm-hmm.
And with Amazonia, by the time issue number 3 was coming out, and now mind you, by that time I also had AWF. I started with AWF. I was already at like issue number 3 going to issue number 4. By that time I had like a gray corner cover for AWF. The artist that I hired, everything was rocking and rolling, and people were, was picking it up. And it's like, wrestling fans and stuff like that was picking that stuff up. But Amazonia was really a harder sell. It wasn't until Comixology decided to pick it up for its submit program that I saw that change.
Okay.
And when Comixology picked it up, the co-owner of Comixology eventually came to my booth that following year. He pulled me over to the side. It's like, you don't realize how many fans of your work you have over here at Comixology.
That's awesome.
People are waiting for that next issue. And I was like, really? It's like, you wrote a good story. You need to get your lettering up. You need to get this up, and you need to get this up. And they was literally helping me fix those things.
Well, yeah. Well,
to get it to that next level, and to get it to that next level. And then the more I kept going with Amazonia, and the more I put it in front of other professionals, they was always getting me. It's like, you got something here. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Fix this. Fix that. Keep going.
Now, Joe, let me ask you a question, because I think independent artists sometimes, or the smaller guys who maybe are just coming up, sometimes their ego is a little bigger than their bank account, right? And so they hear things like what you're saying, and they're like, man, you don't know what you're talking about. Do you think that it makes a difference when it's the person who's telling you to make those changes that will make them change it? Or do you think people are just stubborn and they'll just be like, I'm not listening to anybody? Do you think that the fact that it was the people from Comixology that told you to do those things, do you think that made a difference in your change, or no?
No, it's more along the lines like this, and I got a perfect way to show you this here.
Yeah.
If you bear with me here.
Yeah.
That is how the first Amazonia looked. This is issue number 1. This is the outer print Amazonia. This is where I started out Amazonia with back in 2008.
Oh, okay.
That was my art skills at that time.
Right.
So this is like the only copy that I ever have left, and like I said, Signature Series 9.
Slab. That's awesome, dude.
Now, let's fast forward a bit. And
Joe's digging into the crates. I love it.
This is the version that I put out with Comixology.
Okay.
I went back and redrew it and everything, and it became a hit. All because they asked me to redraw it.
Nice.
To be a part of the submit program.
Good for you. Yep. And you went and made the changes. Now, so you changed artwork? Did you change anything in the story, or they love the story? So you're like, the story.
They love the story. They love the story. I redrew every last page.
Wow.
I redrew every last page.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great
to fit their format and everything.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting, Joe. So where were you mentally when you knew that you had to go back and redo the whole thing?
Mentally, I was up here torn. I was kind of torn because I looked at it. It's like, from what they were I've told, it's like, you wrote a good story. So you kind of conflicted, because it's like, if your story is that good, why do I have to redraw it?
Right.
But from where I was at and the lowness that I was at with Amazonia at that time, and seeing that people wasn't picking it up when I was at conventions and shows and stuff, because they was originally seeing this type of artwork on there, it made me think, it's like, they have a point.
Right.
Will this ever succeed if the art level stays like this?
Right.
Then, working with the people that I have, talking to the other artists that was working with AWF and everything, and they kind of made me look at it. It's like, you have a digital distributor liking your work. What would it hurt if you go ahead and just redraw it? And I said, you know what? That's right. One of the colorists that I wanted to hire said this pretty much the exact same thing. What's it going to hurt if you redraw it? And at that point, you understand you have to fight the ego at that point. Go ahead and redraw it and do what is necessary to be done. Because if I didn't, I would have never gotten to a 10th anniversary.
Damn, Joe. All right. I was going to ask you, how many issues have you done since, man? Like, where are you at with the story?
I'm about to get ready to start issue 8. We just got through funding for issue number 7. We had success with that. And that was the other thing. I came to the whole crowdfunding thing late in the game. And I came also with a little bit of an ego too, because normally most people will go to crowdfunding. It's like, I'm going to re-release my issue number 1 and go from there. I was like, no, I don't have time for that. And the way I say I don't have time for it, because if I'm working on issue number 6 and I want money for issue number 6, I'm going to tell you about where we're at right now with issue number 6. And I went against conventional wisdom. So I did my first campaign to deal with issue 1 through issue 6. We barely got funded. People were happy with it. And then I learned from my mistakes from that. I was like, you know what? Issue number 7, we're going to have to make sure that we have a catch-up tier that is clearly displayed and everything. We're going to give away issue number 1. You know, make it free, have the link where they could download it and they could read issue number 1 for free and everything to that magnitude. You know, we're going to, you know, do the things that we should have done if we would have slowed down and did it, you know, issue 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and did it in that succession. But like I said, I'm more into like here and now. If I'm working on issue number 8, I want people to invest in issue number 8. I don't want them to go invest in issue number 1 and then tell them it's like, oh, I really didn't need the money for issue number 1 because that's already done. I'm using that money for issue 8. Right. I want you to put your money where we're working at. So the next time around, issue 8 comes through, we're going to have a campaign for 1 through 8 where you can always catch up and buy in everything to that magnitude. Now, my biggest problem is the distribution, because I just don't want to be relegated to crowdfunding. Right. I want people to come to my website to buy from me. I want people to go to a comic book store to, you know, find the books. I want it to especially branch out to other areas to make it easier for other people. But in doing so, this is where the catch is. Now I have to make myself, if I could say, vulnerable to like a diamond or a penguin. Because if they don't like our books, that outlet is not available for us. Then on top of that, now you have to come up with strong pitches to comic book stores, regardless if you have a diamond connection or a penguin connection or a Luna connection or anything to that magnitude. Now you got to pitch to comic book stores, make your books available wholesale wise. And that's the other thing that a lot of independent creators don't want to do, is put a wholesale price on it. And when I say a wholesale price, I mean talking about maybe like 10 to 25 cents over print costs. Right. And then tell them MSRP for this variant is really $25, and you can make up your money that way. But yet we'll make back our printing cost plus what 25 cents over that.
Have you
and
been able
people
to
look at that and be like, why are you going to do that to yourself? It's like, if you get into mass volume where you're actually selling 5,000, 10,000, 25,000, it becomes moot. You have money to keep making your books.
Joe, have you been able to get into some stores?
Not without consignment, but I've been working on my pitch and everything to that magnitude to have it done the wholesale way, as opposed to having that 50-50 split. Yeah. Because that kills you. Mm-hmm. That kills you, that 50-50 split on a book, because now you're making less than your print costs. Right.
Yeah. No, absolutely, man. But listen, Amazonia, it sounds like it's moving along, man. You're moving along. Eighth issue. When do you think you'll have that for Kickstarter next?
If I start in December, it'll probably be sometime around April, May that we'll be talking about launching it and really advertising it real hard.
Yeah. And you're doing everything on the book. You do the pencils, inks, colors.
No, I don't do the colors. I don't do the colors. I don't do the editing.
Okay, gotcha. So you do the writing pencils, though, and the lettering.
Writing, pencils, and inks.
Okay.
And then I have a couple of colors that does the coloring, and Elaine Haygood does the editing.
Okay.
Now, in addition to Amazonia, I also do Primetime Saturday Night, which I'm currently working on. If you watch my podcast, I've been showing people how I do Primetime Saturday Night and everything to that magnitude. And we're already 11 pages into that 50-page plus book.
Good for you, man.
And each issue is 50 plus pages, and we're going into issue number 4, which is the 5th issue. And people up there was like, "How are you going to issue number 4 as the 5th issue?" Because we did an issue 0.
Yeah.
We did a prequel issue as an issue 0, and
Yeah,
that was the
I
last
had
one.
to drop that with Forbidden because it made it too complicated for people. That was like issue number 1, which is really the 2nd issue, and they're like, "What are you talking about?"
No,
like,
issue number 1 was the original issue, but we did an issue 0 because when we started issue number 1, we always talked about a pay-per-view that happened. So I thought, it's like, you know what? Why don't we just give them that pay-per-view and give them a bigger, the full picture of where everything was at from the very beginning.
Right.
So once we completed issue 0, we finished up that whole story arc in one nutshell. So technically I could do like a collective of 0 through 3 as one story arc. And then issue number 4 starts a brand new story arc. So I have time to kind of like maneuver and do what I need to do. Now, the one book that I'm late on is AWF number 5. That's the one book that I was late on. That's because the artist that I had decided to work on her own book, but I gave her my blessing because she was putting out her own book as well up under the CGC Studios banner and everything. And she's been working her tail off, and she finally got her own crew together. And she finally figured out a lot of the things that I had to go through dealing with other artists like herself and getting the lettering stuff done and getting, dealing with the actual project management. And that was brand new to her. So with her dealing with that aspect, I had to kind of pull everything back. And it's like, you know what, let me go ahead and take back the artwork, and I'm going to draw it myself and everything. Because I did only one issue of that, and that was issue number 1. I drew issue number 1. And from issue 2 to issue 4, she was doing all the artwork, and now I'm going to take back the artwork in issue number 5.
Nice. So, we're at that point where, we want you to basically tell everybody where they can get your books, where can they find you on social media, and when and what days you are broadcasting your podcast. So go for it.
All right. Well, it's right there. If you got access to the World Wide Web, just go to that link tree of linktr.ee/Silbo. That has everything there. That has my DeviantArt. That has the YouTube channel for my podcast, which is called From the Desk of a Small Press Publisher, which happens every Saturday at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. It has the company website. It has all my social medias from Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, Twitter, everything. So one-stop shopping there. And if you want to buy our comic books, such as the ones that I showed you here, now mind you, the CGC certified books are not on the website. As soon as we get more of them in stock, we're going to have some ready for comic book shows and some that we're going to put on the website. So be prepared for that. That's going to happen starting next year. But you can get all copies of our books at cgcstudios.com on our online store there. And you can get t-shirts, hats, fanny packs, and everything from our Teespring store. And all of that is in that one little handy dandy link tree right there. You can get to all of it there.
Outstanding. But thank you, Joe, for being on the show. Thank you, and thank you for all the great conversations when I was doing my live streams. It's always a good time when Joe's in the stream. But thank you for coming on the show. You're always welcome back, and we wish you a lot of success with what you're doing.
We got to get you guys on my show. We got to get both of you on my show because we need to have that informal talk here. I want to continue on with this, writing other people's IPs and really getting to the nitty gritty of some of the stuff that we do in the industry.
Oh, absolutely, dude. Absolutely. Yes. We definitely should. But Joe, thank you again, man. And listen, thank you so much for the love and support you've shown for our IPs. The Avengers Wonder Duck and Just Nailing My Toilet. We really, really appreciate that. For those watching, make sure you check out Joe D. McFee's podcast. I think you come on, you said Saturday nights, right? So make sure you check that out. And yeah, man.
And his link is also in your summary. So just click that link and it'll take you directly to his link tree page. That's right.
Well, much success, my brother. We'll talk soon, man.
All right.
You got it. All right. That was Joe D. McFee again. And it was funny. Somehow when we do some of these Get Your Meg segments, we always have a guest that has something that's tied to what we. Right. I think that's so really fascinating.
Yeah. That's so funny, dude. You know what it is? It's and that's what we do. Why we do this, right? The industry. It's what we've learned and what we go through, and it's a lot of people go through the same thing. You know what I mean? And that's what we talk about. So it's nice. It's nice to hear from him. He, you know, like I said, he's been a big supporter of the craze, and we thank him. So that was fun.
What I like, and for everybody who's entering the game for the first time, the takeaways from this was humility, right? Honesty. He's honest with himself. He understands, right, that there are some things that he has to work towards, right? He took feedback, constructive feedback, and that's hard, right? I can tell you, I mean, you know, I had to put myself in his seat and say, what happens if that was the feedback I got? How would I handle it? Right. So that was a great example of how to really, if you're really serious about what you want to do, to really take a hard look. Self-reflection is always the hardest thing for any human being, right? To look in the mirror and just dissect yourself. And that's why he's making headway. That's why he's building these bridges towards his end game, right? Because he understands that, number one, everything's about grit, grinding, daily, consistent work, right? And it's also about being honest with yourself. And that's the hard part. So, and for all you aspiring creators out there, you know, the one thing that'll get you further is being able to take constructive criticism, being able to take a look at yourself and your work, and continue to strive forward and say, you know what part of this is relevant to me? How true is this? And then what can I do to fix it?
Well, that's the key word, right? Constructive. You got to make sure that it is something that's constructive. And that's just, it's not just somebody saying something just to say something. And you know, you got to be mindful of where the feedback is coming from and how it's being delivered and what it's actually going to do to what you're trying to do. Yes. So yeah, constructive criticism is very important, especially when it's coming from somebody who, for example, has a successful you know, platform like Comixology was for many years. So when somebody's telling you, dude, you have a family, you got some good stuff here, just tweak a couple of things and you'd go far. Hey, you got to take heed and say, hey, you know what, maybe I need to do some changes. And he did. And congratulations to Joe, because you know, not too many people take that. You know, some people be like,
oh, I know a lot of people that they get the highway, the highway, and you know, and it's like you know, and it's they're still at the same bus stop, right? So it's like, you know, it's time to move forward. And you know, that's the reason why, I mean, like for me, you know, there's a reason why I love art of books. There's a reason why I have a list of pros that I follow on social media and on their YouTube channels, because I'm always getting into their mind and learning about their process and how they approach certain things. And you know, so I think, you know, we all are, this whole exercise with ASAP was a great exercise. It really challenged me, right? Yeah, I don't remember any time that I've worked on somebody else's written project, right? You know, so for me, it was like, all right, Sam, you know, time to flex some muscles. And you know, and I think that's the great thing. Anytime you can be uncomfortable and try something new, you know, it's going to help you grow, you know. But yeah, but that was another episode of Catch the Craze. If you like this episode, give us a thumbs up, hit that like button, subscribe, recommend it to a friend. And remember, you can also catch the Craze on all your streaming platforms, on iHeart, Pandora, Spotify. So if you're driving, you're on the road, you're in the gym working out, you can always listen to us on the go. And, you know, when you subscribe, we grow and the community grows. And don't forget, check out my art channel, The Art of Samuel. Right now, there's a new episode of my experience at Countdown and the prep work before, the setup, and the after. And if you haven't signed up for There's Needle in My Toilet book number 4, please sign up for it today. You know, we are, 5 weeks away. 5 weeks away.
Isn't it really? Damn.
Crazy. You know, January 3rd, we start the new year with book number 4. And if you're coming back and if you backed any of my campaigns before, you come back for a physical tier, you're going to get this enamel pin. It's right here. Boom. I already got it. Where's it? Toma. Bang. For free. So, yeah. And don't forget, get your meds. It's right on the screen. It's right on that screen. That's where you can get yourself Rush 5377 and the Adventures of Wonder Duck and a whole lot more from the Dream of Medina. And join us Thursday morning for the Morning Brew with the Crazy Crew, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we're going to be talking about a whole lot of stuff like don't do it to yourself. Don't do it to yourself. Don't spend more than you make, right? And so we'll talk about that and a whole lot more. So with that said, I'm your host with the most, Sam, the Crazy Man Vera.
The Dream of Medina.
And we are out.
It's just easy. It's not. Crazy. Acquiesce.
No, I was talking about my friend Acquiesce. I met him. say my name, say my name. Right?
This is what you were thinking? Oh my God.
How you describe me? He said, I'm the... What?
Catch the craze. You're listening to Catch the Craze. You're listening to Catch the Craze. To Catch the Craze. You are listening to Catch the Craze on Catch the Craze. You're listening to Catch the Craze.